When I was a kid, I've always drawn. I can't remember ever not having drawn. I mean, when I was 3 years old, I was drawing all the time. But when I was around 7 or 8 years old, I discovered comic books. And that was the first time in my life that there was a kind of focus to what I was doing. It was like, oh, someone does this, someone's making a living at this. This is a job. This is something you can go do. And I fell in love with the storytelling aspect that comics have. But once I went to school, once I got beyond, when I was getting older, I started to discover more of art history. And I realized there was a lot more out there that I liked. And I started moving towards that kind of fine art side of things. Once I kind of explored that, then I kind of came back to my roots, and I've incorporated a lot of that very kind of illustration style into my work. But I'm not making just an illustration for something. I'm making an 8-foot tall drawing. I'm making these big pieces of work. I'm just using some of those techniques from when I was, trying to be a comic book illustrator. And I love connecting things narratively and saying, I'm gonna make 20 pieces, and they only work when you see all 20 of them together, and that sort of thing. This is basically, we're in the figure drawing studio. All the figure drawing classes take place in this studio. It's designed to work well with things like still lifes or models, that sort of thing. All the lighting in here is fantastic in that we can control individual banks. We can control exactly how you move specific lights, all of that kind of stuff. So in terms of working with a model or lighting something, the studio is pretty ideal for that. If you're drawing, you've got to be able to see. And that's a big deal. And a lot of people, when you're learning how to draw, what you're really learning how to do is how to see. Instead of what your brain tells you is there, you're actually having to see the component geometric forms, the lights, the shadows, all that kind of stuff. And so having good lighting, having a good space is really, really important for the student to be able to learn what they're supposed to learn and develop as they're supposed to develop. I think the other thing that doesn't get talked about enough with what an art degree can do for someone is that art degrees are going to teach problem solving, and they're going to teach those perceptual skills. So even if you go out and don't get a job that's necessarily 100%, drawing, painting, sculpting, or something like that, you're going to excel at whatever it is because you're going to be able to be creative and solve problems that maybe other people can't. So it helps in almost every field to be able to do what we do. I think one of the things that I find interesting is how many people will have that are majoring in something else but are doing like an art minor, or they come over here to take classes and they end up developing those very same problem solving skills that ends up making those other majors too, even better for what they're doing. The faculty are practicing what they preach. And that for me was the number one thing, is that the instructors here are making work, they're exhibiting work. They're out in the community. They're not just showing up, teaching their class, and then going home and not doing any kind of art making. They make art. And to me, if you want to be an artist, that's the most important thing, because it's not just the techniques of how do I, say, draw the figure. It's also, well, how do I put a portfolio together? How do I find a way to exhibit my work? What happens when I've got a body of work and I want to learn how to frame it up right, or I need to do all these different things? And the instructors here know how to do all that. They do it regularly. And so you can actually reach out to your instructor and ask these kinds of questions and get an actual answer. And to me, that's far above many of the other reasons why you might want to do it. Is just they're working artists, and you want to be around working artists.